Well, you just heard a track off Carl Verheyen's Mustang Run album, and I'll tell you what, it's a real pleasure to be joined on the phone all the way from, no doubt, sunny California by the man himself. Carl, welcome to Rock Posers Roulette.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it's very sunny here today. Beautiful day. So.
And you always let us know it's sunny as well. There's an acquaintance of mine lives out there as well. The first time I actually interviewed him, he took his laptop out onto the veranda just to prove the point with his webcam. I thought, you absolute bastard.
No kidding, yeah. I remember going to the Isle of Skye one time, and it was around 1989. I was kind of on a vacation, and it was a beautiful sunny day. And this local guy walked up to me and said, "You see those the tops of those mountains?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're lucky because I've lived here 30 years and never seen them."
That's one of those places that we say here. It only rains twice a week, once for 3 days and once for 4 days.
Yeah, yeah. The 3 days of summer. Yeah. So, anyway.
Right.
So.
Well. Amongst the many things, obviously, we're going to chat about is an album I'm really, really enjoying. That, of course, is Mustang Run, and it's, shall I put it, a refreshing change from a lot of the stuff that's out at the moment.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. It was a fun record to make. It was going to be an all-instrumental guitar textural kind of record, and but I had been playing the Supertramp song Bloody Well Right on the road with my band, and it was funny. We kind of worked it up on stage. We didn't even rehearse it. We worked it up on stage, and it kind of caught on with some fans and stuff. And then we got off the road, and we were playing a huge venue here in L.A. Well, I say huge for me. It was a 600-seater, and it was packed full of people. And we said, "Hey, let's do that Bloody Well Right version that we did with the slide guitar a month ago on tour." And we kind of talked it down and remembered it, and we went out and did it. And at the end of playing it, we're on a high stage in a packed room, and this guy walks out of the shadows, because I'm kind of blinded by the lights. This guy walks out of the shadows and says, "Well done, Carl." And I look down, and it's Rick Davies, the composer and singer from Supertramp. And it was such a shock to see him because he lives on the opposite coast. He lives at the end of Long Island,
okay.
Way out in New York. So he's a good 3,600 miles away from home, and the last guy I would expect to see. And it was sort of a fluke that we played the song. It was a last-minute addition to the set, and it blew me away. Anyway, so I thought, we was getting some emails from fans saying you ought to record that. So we threw the one vocal tune on this record. So,
well, I mean, it's I guess an album which, for people who want to pigeonhole it, you've really sort of thrown them what you'd probably call a curveball, because it's a real mixture of, you've got rock, you've got blues, you've got jazz, a bit of fusion, and it's, as I said before, it's just really refreshing because you not quite know what you're going to hear next. It's not obvious how the album's going to progress.
Well, the one unifying theme I believe is good melodies that are memorable. I had when I sat down to kind of conceive of this album and compose for it, I pulled out of my CD collection, which of course I'm sure like yours is pretty massive, and even vinyl collection. And I just went through it, and I went, I listened to this record a lot, and then I went down to the Bees, and I listened to these two records a lot, and so I found the top 10 records that I seem to play all the time, every year, every month, And when you think about it, you buy a lot of records and file them,
Yeah.
You buy them, you hear them once, twice, maybe through the week, and then you put it away and you don't think about it again. So I was trying to come up with a little stack of records and then analyze what makes me come back to these records, and whether they're jazz records or rock records or folk guys or, Bob Dylan's greatest hits or whatever they are. They just have some sort of a connection, and I was trying to discern what that is. And I think two things kept coming. I mean, I know two things kept coming to the surface. One was melodic content. I mean, I really love to hear those melodies, and can almost sing the solos in the melodies. And the other thing was the texture of the sound. Whether they were warm and fat, or edgy and cold, or whatever it was, something attracted me sonically to it too. So there was, and some of them were like country records, and blues, and I play Albert King, King of the Blues guitar all the time,
Fabulous.
I just like his phrasing and his vocals, and I like the sound of his guitar, and so that was one, and Pat Martino, do you know who he is, a jazz guy?
Not familiar with him, no, I'll be honest.
Yeah, Pat Martino has been around since the 60s. He's just been an amazing, probably even earlier. He's an amazing jazz guitar player, but he's just got a completely different concept of than anybody else. And he gets compared to John Coltrane a lot because he plays those sheets of sounds, just cascading notes. And there's one record by him called We'll Be Together Again, and it's just keyboard and him. Pat Martino, We'll Be Together Again. And man, I listen to that record at least twice a month. It's just a real inspiring disc, I just love putting it on. And I even have the vinyl and then a second copy of the vinyl that's sealed that I never opened. and because I was afraid I was going to wear it out. And I have the CD too. So
well, I'm glad you brought vinyl up because I tend to bring it up every show because I am still a massive vinyl fan, still buy at least one or two albums every month. Of new stuff, and it's got to be said that Mustang Run absolutely cries out as something that I would imagine playing as a vinyl record. It's got that, how can I put it? It's almost 70s vibe. You put it on, you sit down, you've got the album cover, and you just sit back and you just listen to the whole album. Because the problem that us presenters have is we get sent so much stuff digitally now, and it's you do the 15-second rule, as we call it. You listen to the track, you skip it on the next one, skip it on the next one. This album didn't skip it. Absolutely honest, just went straight the way through it.
What a compliment! I really appreciate that, Dan. That really makes me happy. And I love to get a new album, whether it's vinyl or CD, and actually sit and listen to it. And I've got a little chair in a listening room actually two chairs that just cry out for, sit down and don't do anything else. Just listen to this record. And like you say, look at the cover or whatever else. Read the credits. It's a lost art of just listening.
It's the curse of MP3, I'm afraid. Because obviously when you put a vinyl album on, you can't just skip. You've got to sit down and you've got to at least listen to one side all the way through.
I know. I'm hoping the MP3 as a medium for music goes away, sooner the better, because it's just the worst medium we've ever had. 78s sound better. So
it's also, I mean, there's a guy I work with, and I mean, I don't know how many times I've cursed him for his how he has his MP3s, because he rips them at 128 kilobits, and basically said, you just ripped the soul out of that. How can you listen to that tinny, trebly, awful noise? I said, if you're going to rip it, at least rip it properly, for God's sake.
I know. You're getting 5% of what the music is, It's the depth. You don't get any depth. Even cassettes have more depth, a lot more depth, I remember listening to a Pink Floyd record called Momentary Lapse of Reason, kind of one of the later ones. Really nice album on cassette, and I was just hearing that depth, this deep reverbs and things going on deep in the background that, an MP3 would never give you, so...
Well, obviously, one other thing I've got to bring up, seeing as I've got you as a captive audience, as it were, is I've got to bring Supertramp up because big and massive fan that I am, and only having had the opportunity to see them play once, and that was I'm trying to think the year now. Now I've put myself on the spot. It was at the Royal Albert Hall, and had the guy at one of the Flynn brothers on vocals, who actually did a fabulous job, and I'm trying to think when
it isn't one of the Finn brothers. That guy's name is Mark Hart.
Oh, was it?
He joined Crowded House. But he was one of the Finn brothers. But so that was probably 1986.
No, it would have been later than that because I went with my wife, so it would have been mid-90s it would have been.
Yeah, we played there for a week in the 90s too, 97 I believe it was.
It could well have been 97, yeah.
Yeah, I always love playing the Albert Hall. It's such a historic place,
And the acoustics are just unbelievable.
Yeah. You know what I always do? This is such fanboy stuff, but I always tell, at the end of sound check, I always say, okay, everybody, if you don't mind, I'm going to play crossroads in the exact same place where Clapton stood on the Farewell Cream concert. Everybody clear out. I'm going to get kind of loud here. And, indulge me, and I do it every day for 5 days in a row.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Well, I remember back in '86, though, we had a Prince's Trust concert there that was really fun.
Right, yeah.
And so we had an etiquette lesson in the afternoon, how to greet and meet Prince Charles and Lady Diana at the time, and it was really a great experience, my first ever encounter with royalty, and it was a lot of fun. There was a cocktail party afterwards where we, hobnobbed with those guys
and had to be on your best behavior.
Cool. Yeah. So. Well, yeah, Supertramp's doing great. They're the last tours we did were 2010 and 11, and then we did one little festival in Madrid in 2012, and then nothing in 2013 or 14. However, a couple weeks ago, Rick Davies, the leader, had a birthday, and it was at his house. It was actually a 3-day party, and we went back. My wife and I went back for it. It was really fun, and we had a jam. We jammed for the 200 people attending this party, and it sounded great. And a few of the promoters were there from France and Germany and stuff. And so there's just a slight bit of talk of possibly something happening next year. And I said, why didn't anything happen this year? And they said, World Cup year, very bad. And I realize, most of the world is not interested in music during that period.
How do you find the music scene in America? Because it's I talk to a lot of American musicians, and it seems to be a mixed bag. Some say the scene's pretty good. Other people say it's absolutely dire. How do you find it yourself regarding getting gigs and what have you?
I've never done anything else but play guitar for a living. Actually, I was a box boy at a supermarket when I was 16 so that I could pay off a little Les Paul I bought. But really, I've only been a guitar player, and over the years, I've switched from being a full-time sideman and a very part-time solo artist. In other words, in terms of income, I've switched that around to where now I'm much more. I make my money as a solo artist and with my own music, and do much less studio work, and that kind of stuff. So it's still a situation for me of what I call multiple income streams. So if you've got a little bit of business sense and a little bit of hustle, a lot of hustle, and you can parlay the various streams of income, you can make a good living. You can make a great living. And some of it is publishing, some of it's touring, some of it's education, some of it's CDs and books and DVD sales. But so overall, I would say for me, the music scene is fine. It's great. I'm completely busy and booked through the end of this year.
Right.
Which is amazing. And I'm kind of going, damn, next week I work Monday, Tuesday, and then I fly to Tulsa and do Tulsa, Houston, Austin, Dallas, and then fly to Seattle and play a couple nights up there. So and then I'm home for 4 days, and I go to Fort Wayne, Indiana for 3 days of recording sessions. Then I'm home for a week, and I go to Europe for 7 weeks. So it's pretty insane, that I'm looking at like, wow, I think I have that Monday off from 3 weeks. So, I think if you're strong, if you're hustling and just making sure that the next quarter has action, has activity, so that come around the 1st of January and you got nothing happening, So, but as far as the club scene and the touring scene, it's more difficult in America due to the distances.
Sure.
And if you're like me and you have a 3-man band and a 2-man crew, you're not really a big enough deal for a big sleeper bus. So your travel days have to be reasonable, no more than 5, 6, 7 hours, 6 hours really, because then you got to set up and play a show and then go to a hotel and sleep and do it again tomorrow. So whereas Europe, you can get by with these 3-hour commutes, 3-hour drive, 3-4 show, wake up, leave the place by 10, get a nap in the afternoon. It's really a lot easier to tour in Europe than it is here.
Well, going back to recording stuff, I mean, I wouldn't say you've been sort of slacking, because you've really almost brought an album out every year if you sort of go back over sort of the last sort of 15 years.
Well, it's been more like every couple of years, but I try to finish the last one and get another one going. Just get started, because without that goal, I tend to be a lazy songwriter and only write when some inspiration hits me just out of the blue. But
right.
If I have a goal, I'm sort of looking for the inspiration, whether it's lyrically or musically. And you're practicing. I'm a practicer. I love to spend that time alone with my instrument. And I think, after all these years, it's kind of where I find my center as a person. It's like, if I'm not up on my playing, because I took 2 days in a row off, which is almost never. But sometimes traveling makes that happen. If I'm not up on my playing, I don't really feel very good about myself.
Okay.
I can barbecue really well, and I can wash my car nice and clean. But other than that, man, it's not much. So,
do you find that you do writing on the road, or is it saying that you'd only do sort of sit down in the studio and do the process there?
That's a really interesting question, because on the road you get a lot of inspiration, whether it's the heartache of missing your family, or the seeing new things, seeing old friends, walking down a cobblestone street in Prague or Vienna or something, and just looking at the architecture. I mean, you get a lot of inspiration that way, but it's more the lyrical, emotional kind of inspiration. Where I get the musical inspiration is more after playing my guitar for an hour and a half.
Right.
All of a sudden I'll come across something new and exciting, and I'll think, hey, that's actually a riff that could be the beginning of a song, or something. So they're two different kinds of inspiration. So.
Well, Carl, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I say, it's a bit of a fanboy moment from me. I have to be honest. I say, guys out there, if you want something a little bit different, do take the risk. Go out and buy this album. Surprise yourselves. Don't be like me. Be a bit more eclectic and just try something a bit different. And hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do. And Carl, wish you all the success. Obviously, with the amount of touring you're going to be doing coming up, and looking forward to the next album already.
All right. Well, thanks. Well, we have, I believe, 10 dates in the UK this year, which is going to be great. We play the Borderline in London on the 25th.
That's a great little venue.
Of September. Yeah, I've been down there before a few times. It's pretty fun. So that's the 25th of September, and then we're all over the UK. And if you know how to spell Verheyen, which is Verheyen, it looks like Verheyen, you can go to carlverheyen.com and find all those tour dates. And I think the last one we do in the UK is going to be the Ullapool Guitar Festival up in Scotland, which is really cool. I've got my special guest this year, John Jorgensen, who, I don't know if you know, but he played with Elton John for many years, started a band called the Helicasters, and has a gypsy jazz group and a bluegrass group. He's just an amazing musician. So I'm looking forward to jamming with him up there. And, spending some time in England this time. It's going to be fun.
Well, hopefully you bring some of the sun with you, because I think our summer's about suddenly ground to a halt. So,
all right, I'll make sure and do it.
Thanks ever so much, Carl.